Hey, what's up, guys? So today I'm going to be talking about a gun that I've been requested to do forever and haven't got around to doing it. It's the Kriss Vector. Um, Specifically, what I'm going to be talking about today is the Gen 2 Kriss Vector, chambered in 9mm. So I'm just going to get into it, and this is going to be a pretty in-depth video to really show you guys what's going on with the Kriss Vector. So here we have the Kriss Vector. This is, like I said, the Gen 2 9mm. I'm going to clear the firearm real quick. Okay, it is clear. So here we go. Here it is, the Kriss Vector. This has become fairly popular within pop culture because of its unique design and futuristic design and aspects like that. This is obviously the SMG version, or the SBR version, with the folding stock. And I'm going to get into the modularity of this platform here in just a second. So obviously, you see these in movies, video games, you see them all over the place, and there's not a lot of solid information out there on the Kriss Vector, and there is a lot of confusion about the Kriss Vector because of recent modifications and changes that they've made to the Kriss Vector. This was designed in 2007, and it's been in production ever since. TDI was the first manufacturer of the prototype of the Super V, Kriss Vector with the V recoil system, and that later became Kriss Vector and is still being produced today. So it's been, it's been out there a while. But it's had so many different changes since the prototype, and like I said, this is obviously chambered in 9mm, and but you can get it in 45, 40, 357 SIG, and 9mm, and this is the SBR 5.5 inch barrel. It's got a 1.5 by 28 thread pitch on it. And this is just the thread protector, so obviously you can put a muzzle device, suppressor, whatever you would need to put on it. First, the civilian models, they have a 16-inch barrel, which is the CRB or CBR. I can't remember what they call it. This is obviously the SBR. They have a pistol variant that I'll get into. And like I said, this is the Gen 2. So the main difference between the Gen 1 and the Gen 2 is the trigger. On the Gen 2s you have a pivoting trigger opposed to a 1911 straight pull trigger. The trigger is adjustable. In this variant, 5.5 inch barrel, they're releasing a 6.5 inch barrel, and they have a 16 inch barrel with the barrel shroud and the CRB, or the carbine variant. The Gen 1's pretty much dying out, so what you're going to get is the Gen 2. That being said, although this is a Gen 2 trigger receiver, it very much so looks like the Gen 1 receiver with the folding hinged option for either a stock, a pistol brace, or whatever you would like. The original Gen 2 package comes with a trigger receiver like this with an end cap, and you can put a buffer, but as you can see, there are no hinges for the folding stock or a folding brace. But this does have the pivoting trigger and the Gen 2 hammer up here, Picatinny rail on top, QD sling swivel, and like I said, you can unscrew this. There are 2 set screws in here that you can unscrew and put in a AR-15 pistol buffer or a carbine AR-15 buffer tube, whatever you want for stock and pistol brace options. And this is what you see the pistol variant in Gen 2 come with. This receiver is also a Gen 2, but it has the modified folding hinges for the folding stock. This is a very modular platform. Not quite as modular as the MP5, but it is definitely getting there. The good thing about the 9mm is it takes Glock magazines. So this is a Glock 17 magazine, 9mm. It takes the standard Glock 17 magazine. Here's a 21 round ETS magazine, Glock mag. It takes the 21 rounder Glock mags, and then the original 32 round 9mm Glock magazines. So you have quite a few options as far as magazines go. You have options like I had mentioned with the receivers, the upper receivers, and this is not considered the firearm. Like in an AR-15, the triggered lower receiver is considered the firearm. I'll get into disassembly here in a second, but the actual firearm is considered the barreled receiver where your bolt assembly actually lies, opposed to where your trigger mechanism is. So that's somewhat different about the Kriss Vector. The disassembly, it takes HK pins for disassembly, similar to the MP5. All the pins are the same. You can replace, your buttstock with a pistol brace, and I'll show you what that configuration would be like. So you have this pin here. Simply pop this pin out, pull this off, and here is an SB Tactical pistol brace for those who don't want to do the ATF paperwork, pay the tax stamp, and wait for ATF approval. So here it's just that easy. Now it is pistol braced and considered a pistol opposed to an SBR. I have a Leupold LCO optic on it right now. It comes with Defiance flip up iron sights, but I find a nice red dot as perfect for this package. Let's talk about the controls. Okay, your controls are on the left side of the pistol, and they're quite different, and they take some training and getting used to. You have your magazine release here, your bolt release, bolt catch here, and your charging handle here, which is non-reciprocating. So that's nice. You just go to charge the firearm, and it's a very short action. It's a delayed blowback type action. So I'll get into the recoil mitigation system here in just in a moment when I get into disassembly. So like I said, very modular between the pistol, the sling swivel, or the SBR package. And what this firearm is primarily used for is close protection. I first encountered this firearm in the Philippines. Indonesia uses it. The SAF, Special Action Force of the Philippines, they utilize this weapon very heavily. And in the battle for Marwawi, that's where I first encountered the Kriss Vector, because that is what they used primarily. And they very heavily relied on this firearm in urban warfare environments. So why I say this is great for CQB is I'll show you right now why it makes just such a great close protection detail firearm. So here I just have an HK sling swivel. You can fold the stock. I'm going to lose my jacket for a second. But in this configuration, for close protection detail, it's very easy to conceal for close protection. And obviously, obviously you can tell for a close protection detail, Secret Service detail, whatever, that I am carrying some type of firearm because you can see the sling, but it's not super obvious, you know what I mean? And you can rapidly deploy this firearm either in a pistol variant, or you can go ahead, unfold it, and you're in business with whatever you need to do. And very easily to conceal again. Fold your stock and just tuck it away in your jacket. Obviously you can see the sling, but it's not any more noticeable than an MP5K. Why do I recommend the 9mm over the 45? Well, the 9mm, the big advantage of this firearm is that, like I said, it takes Glock magazines. The most common Glock is the Glock 9mm, the Glock 17. So mag compatibility with other NATO forces, you're going to be able to find a Glock 19 magazine anywhere. I do love the 45. I prefer the 45 round over any other round. And my carry gun is a Heckler & Koch 45. But for the Vector, the 9mm Glock magazine compatibility is very nice to have. The other options that you have, if you don't want to, for civilians, if you do not want to go through the trouble of SBRing it, the original Gen 2 sling swivel here, same style, MP5 sling swivel, same deal, just like such, and you come up and you have a pistol with the original Gen 2. The effective range on this, I have not pushed this firearm out past 300. You could very easily do so, but at 300-meter engagements, you have no problem with accuracy, and that's mainly because of the recoil system, which I'm about to show you guys right now. So, disassembly of this firearm is, like I said, the push pin method. You take that out, you take your stock off, and you have 4 total push pins. You have one here, 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 and here on the firearm. So go ahead and push those out, and they're all the same, so it really doesn't matter. They're just large HK push pins, so if you don't want to pay Chris Vector for their Chris branded push pins, HK large push pins are the exact same, and you can use those. So the push pins in my HK G3 will work in this firearm. which is very, very, very great news for me, because you guys know I'm an HK addict. I think the HK G3 is just a great battle rifle, especially for European forces, not so much here in the United States. But after you take these 4 push pins out, your upper receiver, which is where your trigger's housed, just pops right off. And here you have your barreled lower receiver, which is considered the firearm of this system. This is what's considered the registered firearm. Now I'm going to show you quickly how the bolt system works and the Vector, the Super V recoil. Instead of having like an M4 where your bolt rides back, slams forward, back, forward, this rides down in the V shape. Back, down, up, forward, and that helps reduce felt recoil, muzzle flip. And as you can see, you can see how that bolt rides, and it's just on a hinged and pivoting system. And to take your bolt assembly and recoil assembly out, you just pull it out, and here's your bolt, and you can just twist that out. Here's your bolt, and here is your recoil assembly. And as you can see, it rides straight down. And what that does is that mitigates your muzzle flip, which leads to its incredible accuracy, especially in high rates of fire. And reassembly is just as easy. Put it back in, flip it. It's got little knobs here that line up with the receiver. And you just push that back in. Put your triggered upper receiver back in. And I personally prefer to stagger my push pins, just like I do with an MP5 or a G3. I stagger my push pins, which, isn't going to make a huge difference. But I prefer to do so for, durability. For some odd reason, if you have just a significant, crazy amount of force on one side of the firearm, I mean, I'm not saying the pins will come out, but for some reason, if you just have an insane amount of force, that would knock 2 of your pins out. If you stagger your pins, then you're still going to have 2 of your pins holding the receivers together in the proper orientation. So there you go. Put that back. Line your hinges up. Function check your firearm. And you're back in business. Very easily disassembled. You can fire this firearm in the folded position. As you can see how the stock is cut low to leave your ejection port open, so it can be fired from the folded position. I didn't think I had that in. Without interfering with shell or brass extraction. Like I had mentioned, here's the controls here. So if you're holding it this way, you need to be cautious as to, not actuate your magazine release or your bolt lock or your bolt catch. But yeah, this is just absolutely one of the best close protection detail firearms that you can get on the market. You can pick them up for around $1,400. The SBR package from Chris comes a little bit higher. I recommend putting on some type of red dot sight. I got the LCO by Leopold. You can pick those up for around $600-700. Not a bad package at all. So that's the Chris Vector. Kind of talked about the modularity and uses for this firearm. If you got any questions, go ahead, drop them down in the comments, and thanks for watching.